My name is Naylor, and this is the Performing Songwriter. This is episode 8, and my guest today lives in Wilmington, Delaware. He performs solo with his acoustic guitar and also with his band. His style is an updated classic rock sound that encompasses hard rock, pop, country, folk, and ballads. He composed the score for the documentary film Greetings from Asbury Park. And he just released his new CD, Music, which is the name of the CD. And I'd like to welcome Nik Everett.
Thank you.
Hey, Nik.
Very good to see you.
Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about how long you've been songwriting and performing.
Since I was 14 or so you're talking about, over 40 years. I started out doing a lot of bad David Bowie impersonations, and and then I always liked the guys that put harmonicas around their neck, like Neil Young and Bob Dylan and Springsteen, and kind of evolved from that. And all while I was doing that, I was a hard rock drummer in bands, and then evolved into a lead singer and a drummer, but I always wanted to be out front with the guitar. Got more girls, more attention, and you could write the songs,
Okay. Nik, let's hear a song.
Absolutely. This is the opening track of my latest album, Music, and it's called Tell Me Where the Summer Goes, and I would say it's a song about the passing of time and what we learn from it.
Love me like the river flowed, but that was oh so long ago. Cool and fast and strong and slow. So tell me where the summer goes. The years went by and so entwined. The beach still takes me to a time. In the sun your love was fine, but was the darkness in our minds, running from the pain we hid. Nothing lasts forever, but no one done me like you did. Time is passing, let's us know what it takes to let love grow. Faded hearts can be so cold. Tell me where the summer goes. Na na na, na 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 na. Tell me now, tell me where it goes. Na na na, na 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 na. Tell me now, so long ago summer goes. Na na na, na na na. Summer goes. Na na na, na na na.
And that's an appropriate song right now because we're recording this. It just turned fall.
Just turned fall today. Yeah.
It's just today. Okay.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, today's first. Was it yesterday? I don't know.
It's around now. Anyway.
21st, 22nd. We're close.
And that's on your new CD, right?
Yes.
Okay.
That's the opening. I think everything today I'll play today will be from the new CD.
Cool. Our topic for the craft of songwriting today is painting a picture, which we've heard that many times before.
Right.
And I used to me, it's kind of like a song is kind of like radio, not like TV, not like this, because people have to see it in their minds. They're not going to see it on a screen.
Right.
And so I guess my question would be, what do you think about in terms of like making the song a visual thing when you write a song?
Well, I think it's important, at least with me, to start with an emotion first, maybe something you've really lived or felt.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if you're honest about it, then it will kind of naturally translate to people. But, there's a lot of clever storytellers out there that can just, they write fiction and they can just come up and paint pictures, of course. I named a few earlier. I mean, Springsteen, Waits, Dylan, Neil Young, those are, heroes of mine that
Mm-hmm.
they conjure up a lot of stuff that they've never experienced, but somehow I haven't written too many songs like that, so I would say I come from an emotional base. It's either something that I've lived through or somebody close to me
Mm-hmm.
has lived through and expressed it. And and I do try to be as simple as I can. Sometimes it's weird. You don't always create a movie, I guess. It's kind of like creating a movie for people,
Mm-hmm.
or a video without seeing the video.
Right.
That seems to be really hard to do. My songs are simpler than that, but hopefully I do paint a picture.
And do you see those pictures in your mind while you're singing?
Yes.
Yeah.
That particular song, because that makes me think about growing up, going to a camp that I went to. And,
right. And do you find that your melody kind of informs what those pictures are going to be?
Yes.
Like they call it prosody, I guess.
Yes. Because most of the time I write the melody first and then I find the words that will go with it. But a lot of times it's a hook and a feeling. Yeah, I think those are the best songs, really, were the perfect marriage of music and words.
Mm-hmm. Well, in terms of painting a picture, I think the first person that told me suggested I start doing that with my songs was Patty Shea.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
And Patty lives in New York right now, a great songwriter.
Right.
And this was like 15 years ago, and because I really never concentrated that much on that, and that really helped me, I think, a lot. And the two songs I'm going to do today, I'm going to do one of them now. I think do paint pictures, and that's why I thought I'd do them.
Can't wait to hear it.
And this one, it's called A Day in the Park. Mom and Dad with their kids, man fishing off the bridge, ducks taking a leisurely afternoon swim, kids slide down the slide, someone's taking a boat ride, there's two lovers, she's looking at him. And I watch all this, and I see them kiss. I hope that they don't see me looking. There's a smell in the air, and I turn to see where it's hot dogs and hamburgers cooking. Just a day in the park, it's a walk through the sunshine, it's a nap in the shade, it's just perfect for two. It's time for unwinding, and it's time to start smiling. Shut out the world, leave your troubles behind you. I got my feet in the big lake, I'm taking a small break with the smell of the grass and the wind in my hair. Got some chips that I brought here, wish I had a cold beer, but I got what I need, so I haven't a care. And the day it grows longer, the wind it grows stronger. I look over my shoulder, I see the moon. The stage just won't last, it's going too fast. I guess that it's time to be heading home soon. Stay in the park, it's a walk through the sunshine, it's a nap in the shade, it's just perfect for two. It's time for unwinding and it's time to start smiling. Just shut out the world, leave your troubles behind you. Just a day in the park, it's a walk through the sunshine, it's a nap in the shade, just perfect for two. It's time for unwinding and it's time to start smiling. Shut out the world, leave your troubles. Leave your troubles behind you. So, anyway.
That paints a picture.
Yeah, well, that's what I was trying to do.
Nice and simple. I think those are the hardest songs to write.
I think they are. Yeah, but I think that's a good idea. You know, you don't want to confuse your audience.
That's true. Yeah, and obviously there's a lot of writers that over intellectualize it. You know, they want to be the poet all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And now it's time for our Skype interview.
Okay.
And a guest today is Harriet Schock, who's from Los Angeles. She's been very successful in some of her songs being sung by other people, such as Helen Reedy and Manfred Mann and a few others.
Okay.
So let's take a look, and we will. Harriet Schock is a double platinum songwriter, recording artist, author, and songwriting teacher. She has recorded 7 solo albums and has scored the last 4 Henry Jaglom films. She co-wrote all the songs in The New Adventures of Pippi Longstocking, as well as the theme song for the current Emmy-winning series, Jakers, and wrote words and music for the Grammy-nominated song, Ain't No Way to Treat a Lady. Welcome, Harriet.
Thank you, Ray. Nice to see you finally.
You too. I'm going to ask you to talk a little bit about how long you've been songwriting. I know you also are a teacher, and your recording history, that type of thing.
I started writing songs in the 7th grade. And when I came out here right after college, I was fortunate enough to get a publishing deal right away. I was playing out, you know, and singing my own songs, and Roger Gordon came where I was playing, and he signed me to Screen Gems. They made demos, and then 20th Century Records signed me. Russ Regan signed me to a record deal. I made 3 albums for them, and my first album had a song on it. A lot of the songs were getting airplay, and a lot of them were recorded by other people. When I met Helen Reedy, she said, well, I heard your song on the radio. So she had the hit with it. She covered it. And so I was anonymous all the way to the bank. But anyway, that was in the 70s. In 1986, I was writing songs for films a lot. And USC called me and said, we want to start a songwriting department and we want you to teach it. And I said, it can't be taught. So the next year they made me feel real guilty and said, we're not going to offer it if you don't teach it. I'm sure that wasn't true, but I believed it. So I started teaching songwriting for USC. And in a couple of years, I just started teaching for other people because somehow that wasn't satisfying me, because I didn't really believe those kids were motivated to be professional songwriters. I think they thought it was fun. So I then started teaching for the Songwriters Guild of America, and I've been teaching ever since. I teach privately now, on the internet, over the internet, privately, in classes, in LA. And I got heavily into writing songs for films and TV in the 80s, as I said. And then in the 90s, I met Nik Everett, who made albums with me again. So I started recording again and still writing songs for film and TV. I never throw a career away. I just add them. Like, you know, my closet looks the same way with the clothes. But I now have 10 earning careers, and I love all of them.
Okay. I want to talk a little bit about songwriting. Our topic for this show is painting a picture in songs, but also, you know, since you're a teacher of songwriting, I was going to ask you if you could say, like, for any songwriter, even a new one or an old one, what would be like some 2 or 3 things that they should always keep in mind, and then maybe also talk a little bit about using words and music to paint a picture for the listener.
it's hard to boil songwriting down into a soundbite. However, I do have a step-by-step process that I put my students through. They start with nothing, and they end up with a song that has on the listener the same emotional impact the incident had on the writer. So the three most important things, in my opinion, are communication, visuals, which is what you're talking about, using pictures, and getting a melody and chords that are both, well, they're inevitable sounding, but not predictable, which is a very fine line. You know, you don't want something to sound like they know exactly what's coming next, but you want to give them enough familiarity that they aren't lost in a house of mirrors and can't find their way out. I mean, a lot of jazzers just lose the general public because they're bored with, normal harmony. So there's a thin line there. But I think melody and harmony that is really makes the hair on your own neck stand up, using visuals, and being willing to communicate clearly.
Okay. This is a good time for you to do a song, I think.
Oh, okay. I live in a duplex, and the people who lived there when I first moved in were an elderly couple in their 90s. And these people were so wonderful to me, but before I knew them, I was terribly afraid of making too much noise. So they invited me upstairs one time, and I went up to meet them, and I was so inspired by their love for each other, their positive viewpoint on life, their children, their grandchildren, their pets. And I was so inspired, I started writing a song about them. And when I finished it, I called them and I got the wife. And I said, I've written a song in tribute to your relationship, your marriage. I hope that's all right. And she said, well, it certainly can't harm the relationship. And then she said, everything only makes it better. So they got all dressed up and came downstairs to hear my song. And I sang it for them. And they were very polite. They went home with the lyric sheet. And then she called me in about 5 minutes. She said, this is really good. We couldn't hear when you were singing it. So I felt better about not making too much noise for them. But I always think of them when I sing it. Television looks like it's from the 50s, except that there's a cable in the back, and he sits in his special chair, half awake and half aware that she is in the room somewhere. That is his pivotal fact. The photograph is clearly from the 30s. Smiling features of the bride and groom. And my eyes pan from it to them. It looks like her, it looks like him. And the spark of love is not grown dim. It lights up the room. They're headed where their parallel lines will finally meet. He only sought to rule the world, to lay it at her feet. Over and over and over, she steals his heart. That is her art. And over and over and over, she chooses him, and they both win. When his knees are just not up to walking, she goes down the stairs to get the mail. And if I'm dressed and quick enough, I sometimes go and take it up, as if this long abiding love were my holy grail. Their bodies don't obey them in this inning of the game. Yet the look inside their eyes is constant and the same. Over is her art, and over and over and over she chooses him, and they both win.
I like that.
Thank you.
I think a lot of people could relate to that, at least those of us that are over whatever. Our topic in terms of performing piece of it is when we're on stage, who are we? What is our persona on stage? And I was going to, there was Harry Houdini took his name from a guy named Robert Houdin, who I think that's how you pronounce it, who was a magician in the 1800s. And he said that a magician is an actor playing the part of a magician. Now, I think that's a little extreme in relating that to performing songwriters, but I think there may be a kernel of truth in that a performing songwriter is an actor playing the part of a performing songwriter in some instances. So I kind of wanted to get your opinion on how, people's persona on stage, let's say, instead of not just acting like you are per se, but rather acting in such a way that you present to the audience the way they want to see you. I guess that's what I'm saying. So just kind of interested in your thoughts on that.
Yes, I really have a lot to say on that subject. I'm going to try to condense it, but I actually believe that you should be who you are pretty much all the time. The problem with people who are starting to write songs is they stop communicating the way they normally would and start songwriting, which is a language they don't speak fluently. That's why you see bad actors up there who are acting. They're just not filling the performance with real emotion. Now, I've gone to an acting class for 3 years ever since I stopped being in a play that ran for a year and then was made into a movie, because the play was directed by Gary Imhoff, and he has an acting workshop for singers. And I was one of the only songwriters in it. Now it's filled with songwriters, because really you do need to remember how you felt when you wrote the song. Sometimes I'm singing songs I wrote 30 years ago. I need to fill it with the same emotion I had when I wrote it. And that is a bit of an acting challenge. By acting, I don't mean being fake or anybody you're not. I mean being your best possible self. When I perform, I'm very accessible. Everybody thinks that I'm their new best friend and that we were in the living room, even if it's a stadium, because I am who I am, but I am my best self. I'm my most patient, calm, understanding, wise self. I'm not somebody who can't find her car keys. Do you know what I mean? But I'm still me.
Yeah, I think I would agree with you. I know one of the other shows I did, I talked with one of the performer I had about, sometimes we might have sang a song 500 times, and to just exactly what you said, to perform it the 501st time, to remember how you felt when you wrote the song. So I would absolutely agree with you on that. Let's hear another one of your songs.
As I told you, I write a lot of songs for film and TV, and this particular song was for the Henry Jaglom film, Irene in Time. He called me. I thought we had all the songs for the film because he had come to see my show and had decided to put my band in the film, sort of like Oh Lucky Man, where it comments on the action of the film. So I had 4 songs in it, and he wanted one written specifically for the film, which is about a girl whose father died when she was a child. He died in a boating accident. She was very close to him, and she looked for him in every man she dated. So I wrote this song, and he decided that he didn't have time to hear it before we shot, so he just shot it the first time he heard it, which was very unnerving for me, but it worked out. You were always here. Now you're always gone. One of life's cruel ironies that I can count upon. I have spent these endless days searching for you. You were how I felt when I was most myself. Something unattainable when I'm with someone else. I have spent these endless nights searching for you. Sunlight on the ocean at dawn, sailing into eternity. Somebody translated it wrong for you, for me. Now I look for signs that you're still around, in the air upon my face or right here on the ground. When I look into his eyes, I'm searching for you. Now, when I do it in live performance, I go back to the bridge and do the last verse. But, you know, for the film, that's all they needed, so that's what I wrote.
Okay, and you've written quite a number of songs for films, I know.
Yeah.
About earlier. Do you have any other projects coming up that you're working on right now or you're getting ready to?
Yes. Well, I have some performances. I have a show November 20th I'm very excited about. Tracy Newman does this series called Artist Entrance, and she's interviewing me, and I'm doing a set, and she's performing, and I'm performing. I'm also writing the songs. I've written the songs for a musical that Diane Ladd, the actress, wrote the book for, and it's called Last of the Bad Girls. And then I got all inspired to write a musical of my own, book and songs, but it's more of a catalog musical. Some people call it jukebox musical, but it's a musical written around songs that have already been written, you know, like Mamma Mia and the Motown's musical. So that's called Split, and I'm in rewrites on that. We had a number of very sold-out performances, so that was exciting. And, yeah, I'm working on a lot of things right now.
Now, somebody, songwriter, wanted to sign up for your either, you know, your songwriting teaching service, I guess you'd say, whether they live in L.A. area or whether they're in Pennsylvania or anywhere else. How might they do that?
Well, I have a website that's harrietschock.com, but you have to know how to spell it. It's not spelled like the Marriott Hotel. It's Harriet, and my last name is spelled Schock, harrietschock.com. And then you can just click on, you know, courses or whatever. And you can also just contact me from that site, and people do it all the time. I teach people in Egypt. I have people all over the world who study with me. They still do the same steps, but it works just fine. They do it by private email. It's not a computer-generated course. I haven't figured out how to do that because it needs my feedback.
Right. Okay. Harriet, thank you very much for being part of the show today. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I also want to plug the movie that's out right now with my theme. At the end of the new Henry Jaglom movie, The M Word, which is in some theaters still, but it isn't in all of them. You can get all of his movies on Netflix, but I wrote the end title song, which was... he called me and said, "Do you have a song about menopause?" You know, and I said, well, I'll write it, Henry. I don't have one lying around. So it's at the end of the film, and my backup singer is usually with me. Andrea Ross Green is singing, and it's very nice. So I wanted to give that a plug.
Well, definitely, and we'll take a look at where we can get a look at that. That would be kind of cool. Anyway, thanks a lot, Harriet, and good luck in your continuing music career, and you're very accomplished, and it was a privilege to have you on the show today.
It was my pleasure. Thank you, Ray.
Okay, so I want to thank Harriet Schock for being our Skype interview today. Nick, I'm going to ask you to do the next song here.
Great. I think I'll play another song from the new album. It's called The Sound of Your Lies. I kind of wanted to make it universal. I mean, I think throughout all our lives we encounter dishonesty. And we definitely get it from our politicians, so this kind of goes out to all of them, you know?
Okay.
So.
I saw you telling a fable, candy coated with smiles. Tell me what you believe in instead of a tale. Play people's hearts as if they're like children. They hold all your words as if they were gold. And it's the sound of your lies, reveals no music inside, all beauty decries the sound of your lies. So you'll never fool me, 'cause I'm not with the crowd, and I often do blame them for paying you mind. And it's the sound of your lies, reveals no music inside, all beauty cries the sound of your lies. You got it all figured out, dividing love into hate, and as I turn away, I know it could be too late. And it's the sound of your lies, reveals no music inside, all beauty decries the sound of your lies. The sound you like, the sound of your life, the sound you like, the sound of your lives.
Yeah, I like that. I like that hook. it's not just I hear your lives; it's the sound of your lives. That's really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
It's a neat way of saying that.
Thank you.
The performing discussion today has to do with our persona on stage, and
Right.
do we act just like we do normally, like we're talking now, or do we, how about yourself? Do you find yourself acting, not acting, but kind of being a little maybe bigger than life, let's say?
I'm pretty much, I think, the way I am normally on stage. It might be a little bit different maybe at the kind of the end of the night or the end of a rockin' set with the band, and you're really getting the crowd worked up,
Right,
and
yeah.
you might get a little more childish and outrageous, than you would normally.
Right.
Start jumping around, which is fun to do. I've always been that kind of a performer. I've always admired and been intrigued by the people, too, that become somebody completely different when they go on stage. And some people do that by just changing their persona, and then some do it by just wearing a different costume. But I've never been that way.
I know myself, because I'm a relatively laid-back person.
Right.
But I can get on stage and not be that way. To be more, should we say, assertive and more, animated, I guess you'd
Okay,
say.
well, whenever I see you, you always seem to be just Ray, the way you're talking to me now.
Well, maybe that's just my perception.
Which is very personable and affable and friendly and warm. You like that.
Yeah.
I like performers like that anyway. They're real just engaging, like James Taylor's like
Right.
that, John Sebastian.
I was mentioning in the last Skype interview, last show, somebody like Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
Now, I doubt that he went around with all those facial expressions normally. You know what I mean?
And Elvis, people like that.
Yeah.
I think some of those guys, they go into a state, it's like a zone they go into, and they can't help it. It just makes them,
Yeah, exactly.
That's what Joe Cocker always said, too, yeah.
But the other side of the coin, I've seen performers, their persona on stage, frankly, is boring.
Yeah.
So I think, that is when you have to think about that. Think about,
Yes.
maybe like, videotaping yourself, having somebody videotaping you, and look at it.
I agree.
And, am I happy with what I look like on stage, or do I need to think about changing that?
Yeah, there's nothing worse than loving a record or hearing a song on the radio, and you're like, I'm going to go check this artist out.
Yeah.
And they make you fall asleep after the third song.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah, especially nowadays because, there's so much less radio and airplay and for artists. You better be good live.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And somebody like, I mentioned him last time, one of my favorite songwriters is Greg Greenway. And he's the guy that is he's dynamic on stage.
Yes.
And that makes a lot of difference, I think, in terms of being into the show,
Absolutely.
And again, it depends what kind of music you do.
Yeah, that's true. And then, there's storytellers, which you get more in the folk and the country,
Exactly.
fields. You'll get storytellers. And then in rock and roll and hip-hop, you get all kinds of crazy stuff going on. And
Yeah. Kiss.
I know.
From the 70s, you know what I mean?
Right.
I don't think they walked around with that makeup on, you know what I mean?
No. And they weren't getting anywhere until they put that makeup on. See,
Yeah.
it worked for them.
Exactly. Well, I have another song I'm going to do. It's a new song.
Oh, can't wait to hear it.
And as I mentioned to you before we went on, I knew doing this show was probably going to shame me into writing more songs. So it's worked. So I have to use the words. Because I just wrote it,
You got
And-
to. Nothing wrong with that.
Now, as far as since we talk about performing, I don't really recommend people having their words when you're on stage, although I've seen it. Maybe there are times that works out. Okay.
I try not to do it, but sometimes I do.
One of my sisters had emailed me a little over a month ago that the house that we grew up in, the people that lived there, recently lived there, were hoarders, and because of their hoarding. You ever see that show, The Hoarders?
It's scary, yes.
Yeah, and many times they ruin the structure of the house, so it's unlivable, and that's what happened. So they knocked it down.
Oh, no.
And so I thought, okay, that you know, the idea for a song. So
Wow.
So if this is a little rough, it's because I just wrote it. And this is also a song I think that has a lot of pictures in it. The old house I grew up in isn't anymore. The walls are in a landfill, and so are all the floors. My bedroom in the corner no longer holds my dreams. I guess no one could love it, so it seems. At night the floors would creak and moan, scared me half to death. The spiders in the basement would take away my breath. I'd see some ghosts when it was dark, but only in my mind, and I could always get away if I hid beneath the bed. I screwed up the rhyming there, but that's okay. In the attic was an old trunk filled with pictures from the past. Newspapers saved about World War II. I guess they didn't last. I'd open up a toy box and play with my train set. My mother yelled, "Put that away, it isn't Christmas yet." Outside there was a maple tree. I climbed up to the top. My father tilled his garden, then he'd plant his crops. The yard was big and we would play football every day. And then there was hide and seek, our favorite game to play. The house that I grew up in is now a great big hole. They're building a brand new one, that's what I've been told. But I won't forget those memories when I was just a kid, of that big old house, the place that I once lived.
Yeah, I like that one.
Thanks, I like it too.
Yeah, I don't think you really need to do anything with it. I think it's ready to go.
Well, I did, yeah, the last few days, you know, I did some editing this morning. I changed a thing here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty much...
That's great. Now, where was this house?
It's in North Wales, Pennsylvania.
Oh, okay.
In Montgomery County.
It's a nice area.
Okay. So, I'm going to ask you, tell us a little bit about how people can contact you, how they can learn about your music.
Yeah, you can find me. I'm revamping my website. It's NikEverett.com. NikEverett.com. You know, remember there's no C in the Nick and IK. But you can go there and find my calendar and access to music. I'm using the Reverb Nation site at the moment too, so you can go to www.reverbnation.com/Nik Everett. You can listen to music samples from my album, find out about shows, watch a video, all kinds of good stuff. So,
and where can people get your CDs?
iTunes, Amazon is really the big one. On Amazon, you can get it, either a physical CD or download it.
Mm-hmm. Probably iTunes also.
And iTunes also, correct.
Okay.
Right.
Final song.
Okay. Yeah, this is called Lesson Number 1. It's from the new album.
Here's my miracle one. It's lesson number 1. Row in some mercy horn. Lesson comes undone. Did not mean to hurt you. I hate to make you cry. I won't turn away, miss the story in your eyes. Sometimes in a broken heart, deep down where the darkness starts, you'll find the sun and learn lesson number 1. wash away the pain or putting it on a shelf. Sometimes in a broken heart, deep down where the darkness starts, you find the sun and learn lesson number one. Sometimes in a broken heart, deep down where the darkness starts, you find the sun and learn lesson number one. Number one. Oh, lesson number one.
Yeah, you said earlier about it. A lot of your songs really come from emotions, and they really do. You know, and I always really liked your songs, and I like the way you perform.
Thank you very much.
So you're a perfect guest for this show.
Thank you. It was always great being on. It's great. So
I want to talk about next time's show. The next show. How's that?
your next show.
My next show.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, exactly. Our in-studio guest is Jess Ray. She calls herself Black Dress Jess. And I met her at a PASA meeting, which is Philadelphia Area Songwriters Alliance. And I really liked her songs. She's a young songwriter. She's actually getting her doctorate in psychology at Widener University, which is close to here. And she originally was from Maryland, but she lives here now. Our Skype interview is Steve Bryant. I don't know if you know Steve.
No?
Steve was actually one of the hosts on QVC. He's retired now, and
Oh, really? Okay.
he plays really good guitar, plays blues, he writes songs. Funny guy, you know. He's very, and because he's used to performing, you know, on the TV.
Right, because QVC had to perform.
Exactly, and so he's a really good performer. So he lives in LA now. So we will be talking to him from across the road.
Great.
Well, I was going to say across the pond, but not really, unless you go the other way.
Right.
And Nick, I want to thank you very much.
Thank you very much for having me, Ray.
Thank you. It was
All right.
great. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks.
And we'll see you soon. See you next time.